We live in a society. I lean down to grab one of the books. Yuri's hand touches mine momentarily when she reaches for the same book. The classic hand-touching, oh, I'm sorry moment. What's up, everybody? Caesar Madrazo here, and we are back with Doki Doki Summertime. In the last episode, I asked you guys to vote on who should be the girl that we go for in the game here, and you guys selected Yuri. So, that's who we're gonna go with. So, horror things, big words, really serious subject matter. So let's see what we got. Dose-dependent liver cream, time theory formula, fear of missing out, save our souls, Thomas Lawrence dialectic revision, boyfriend figure, unidentified flying object, grave user index, burial grounds. Solve for X. Alright, so that was all Yuri right there. Anybody want to play another round? Most certainly. No thanks. That's okay, Natsuki. We can just do something else. Yuri lets out a short sigh. There's a minute of silence between us. Yuri is the one who interrupts it. She reminisces over a book they read during the school year. I never was much of a reader, but it wouldn't hurt to listen in for a bit. Maybe I can join in at some point. So, what did you think of the twist halfway through the story? It was so sad. I felt really sorry for her when she died. Like, why didn't somebody do something? She had friends and all. Didn't they talk about this before? It was revealed in the later chapters. Don't you remember, Sayori? I only read a few pages after the girl committed. Shush, Sayori. Caesar might want to read it himself. Yeah, this is the same conversation. On the first day, they definitely talked about this. We wouldn't want to spoil it for him, right? Hey, I didn't read it either. Ooh, you're right. I'm sorry. I catch Natsuki glancing at me for a moment. I decide to take the hint and act upon it. I read a horror book once. Who? Care to elaborate, Caesar? It's, about this young guy. The protagonist is just a few years older than us. The story is set in a post-apocalyptic future. Basically, it's set after nuclear bombs were dropped. Are we talking about more Fallout? Everybody he knows has to live in underground tunnels to survive. They have to fight back monsters, and only a few people go to the surface because it's so dangerous. Man, I'm guessing the mod creators, or at least the story writer, was really into Fallout. We follow the protagonist on his journey to deliver a message to another underground community. Meanwhile, he has dark, blurry visions that involve the monsters. Okay, this sounds a little less like Fallout. Maybe I was jumping the gun a little bit there. That's about as much as I can recall off the top of my head. I'm just hoping not to get called out for reciting the story of a shooter game I played. Oh, Caesar. I didn't expect us to have similar taste in literature. Am I wrong to assume that the story implied that the monsters were just living beings like us humans? Crap, did she play the same game? Yeah. How did you know? It was just an assumption. That's a recurring trope in some of the novels I read. They, the monsters, the non-humans, are set up as natural enemies of us. In the end, the protagonist has an epiphany about how much alike we are to them. Or even are on the same level. Not that we are monsters. Don't worry, I think I get your point. I didn't even think about that. I just wanted to play video games. After a brief pause, Yuri checks the time. I'm sorry, but I have to go now. Aw, already? Can't you stay a little more? Come on, it's not every day that we meet like this, Yuri. Not anymore, that is. I would love to stay, but I promised my mother we would go visiting. I'm just glad that I get to spend some time with her. I hope you can understand. Yeah, this is literally the same thing that happened the first time that we were at the park. The only difference is Monika's not here. Yeah, she looks visibly dejected. Is she really gonna miss Yuri that much? Surely they can hang out some other day as well. Now that I think about it, it would be nice to hang out with Yuri more than last time. Maybe I can ask her if she's okay with me walking with her for a bit. Yeah, I have to go as well. Why so soon? I just have to take care of some other stuff at home. Yeah, if we have another meeting, I'll make sure I have enough time. Yeah, bye. Yuri said goodbye as well, and we leave nearly at the same time. On the way out of the park, we match our pace and start talking again. Hey, Yuri, are you taking the bus? Huh? Yeah? Why do you ask? Oh, I was just going to say bye if you aren't. I'm taking the one just outside the park entrance. Is that so? Me too. Sorry if you felt uncomfortable with us chatting amongst ourselves. No, it was awesome meeting you. Me? All of you. That includes you, Yuri. I see. The bus arrives after a minute or two. There are only a few seats available. Look, there are 2 seats next to each other. Would you like to sit next to the window? Yeah. Thank you. I let her in first and take my seat by her side. I can't sit silently next to such an attractive girl. I have no topic, and I must speak. I don't know, Yuri, she's the quiet, introverted, shy type, so I think she'd be fine just sitting in silence. So, do you have hobbies not related to literature? I do, but, well, is it something hard to explain? Yes, it is. She says that with her voice raised nervously. A few passengers look at us. I'm sorry. Let me get my thoughts together. I used to play volleyball. That's cool, but why'd you stop? There was an incident. Caesar, look, do you see that bookstore? Okay, so that's a reference to the Just Yuri mod, if I'm not mistaken. In the Just Yuri mod, you can ask her if she plays sports, and she says that she played volleyball, but there was a sports bra incident that made her want to stop because it was kind of embarrassing. What about it? Well, I'd like to buy books there. Yeah. I might check it out if you say it's good. Maybe I'll find something worth talking about. That's not... I mean, if you want to discuss literature, then I'm sure all the other club members are eager to listen. Yeah, I guess I could finish a book for when school starts again. I say I could, not that I want to. You don't have to wait that long. We're going to have another meeting in the near future, I'm sure of it. Oh, can you tell... I'm sorry, I have to go now. This is my stop. Well, it was nice talking with you, Yuri. I'll see you next time, I guess. Farewell, Caesar. My journey home continues for a few more minutes before I get off the bus, too. I'm not in a hurry to get home, so I keep a comfortable pace and think about today's events. Even the way Yuri says goodbye conveys elegance. Man, I'm starting to feel the need to grab a firm book and do some thorough discussing. Can I actually get into the habit of reading? Worst case scenario is that I get some experience outside my comfort zone. It's worth a try at least. It's not like I would do it just to impress Yuri. Monika seems like the kind of girl who appreciates a guy who's well-read and not just well-toned. Yeah, so you wouldn't do it just to impress Yuri. You're gonna impress Yuri and Monika. I hope she'll be back for the next meeting. After all, she was so inspiring right from the moment I met her on Sunday. Daydreaming aside, I have to figure out what kind of book I'd be actually willing to read. On the rare occasion that I pick up a book, I usually read non-fiction. I usually read stories about people who did amazing things throughout their life. It's an ordinary Thursday. Would be the most boring sentence ever to start a day with. I launch out of my bed and land in my slippers with such accuracy that I'm tempted to tell somebody how awesome it was. So this is something that I've noticed. It seems like every day throughout this week, MC just wakes up in a better and better and better mood. And I'm guessing that that has something to do with Monika. I think that Monika, just, from how confident and, how seize the day she is, that her personality is influencing MC a little bit. And so he's just getting happier and more determined to, go out there and do things with every day that he wakes up. I woke up quite late today because I stayed up hours past midnight. I sometimes find it easier to concentrate on the silent solitude of the night. With my cup of coffee, I lean on the windowsill and get lost in my thoughts. I told Mom that I was thinking about visiting the bookstore Yuri told me about yesterday. She seemed really happy for me and gave me some cash so I can buy a book or two, even though I didn't say for sure what I'm going to buy, if anything. Could they have something that's nearly as interesting as a game I would play? I mean, if not even half a page-long official letter can keep my attention, how would hundreds of pages do so? Still unsure of going to a bookstore on my own, I decide to look through the books our family has in hopes of finding something of interest. Here's one. This isn't a book. It's some black plastic box with a bit of shiny tape sticking out. Why does this thing have such a fancy cover? Weird. I give up. We don't have any cool books at home. I wonder what that's about. Is this box gonna be important later? That was oddly descriptive. Might as well just go to that bookstore, I guess. Maybe I can ask somebody who works there to give me suggestions. Let's just get this over with. All dressed up, I check to see if I've got everything I need before leaving. I board a bus that takes me to the bookstore Yuri pointed to yesterday. The bus had quite a few people on it, and the number only kept increasing as we neared the city center. Luckily, I don't have an issue with crowded spaces. However, all this traveling feels like such a nuisance if I compare it to some of the open-world games I've played. In those worlds, you don't need to walk or take buses, and the only thing you can do is stare out the window and get lost in your thoughts. The game is literally describing itself right now. That's a nice reference. At least that's what I do all the time. The only other two activities I see people do are chatting with each other and mashing their smartphones. Yeah, that is actually exactly what happens in real life. Living here in Korea, I take the bus to work every day, and that's exactly it. People are either talking or they've got their heads buried in their phones. There's literally nothing else anybody does. As I'm looking out the window, the bus stops next to a playground. We often visited it back when Sario and I were kids. We were so easily entertained with the little games we played outside. My parents still like to remind me of all the silly things we said and believed about the world. For example, there was this creepy old man who sometimes sat on one of the benches at the playground, always on the same one, too. The two of us theorized why he's sitting there silently by himself, but neither of us had the courage to ever ask him ourselves. Looking back, there are plenty of reasonable explanations I can think of. For all we know, he might have just liked reminiscing over the memories of his own children playing there, just like we did. The bus moves forward and we pass the abandoned building next to the playground. Its entrance is closed off with police tape and the windows are either boarded up from the inside or old drapes are blocking the view. It's been out of use for as far back as I can remember. The police tape suggests that it became the scene of a crime. We really were naive back then, being afraid of an old man who never even looked at us the wrong way, yet not even acknowledging the things that happen in a place like that building. Come to think of it, that reminds me of what Yuri asked about regarding the horror game I played. Maybe there's a lot of stuff I didn't notice in the games I played until now. Maybe some of the twists weren't as unpredictable as I thought they were during my first, most often only, time playing through them. This is making my head hurt. I'm probably overthinking things again. I get off the bus and make my way to the bookstore. I can't recall the last time I came here that wasn't for the sole purpose of buying a gift for someone. My first instinct guides me to look for manga. Unfortunately, their selection is very limited. Looking over all of them, I see that the only two that interest me are the ones that I already own and read. I give up on this section soon after realizing this. Good thing they have labels indicating the contents of each section, otherwise I could end up looking at a romance novel and find out it's actually some psychological horror story. Man, this game is really good with its references. I wonder, what kinds of books have fighting, shootouts, or other epic clashes? Well, you could try Macbeth. There's a pretty epic sword fight scene at the end. And also Hamlet for that matter. I'm reminded of a game I played recently where I assumed the role of a detective and got to bash bad guys with lead pipes. Maybe a detective novel then? Walking over to the appropriate section, I start browsing. Basically, I'm just looking at the covers and reading a few sentences from the back of each book. This isn't working out for me. It would be so much easier if they listed the kinds of things that happen in them, like how they show bits of scenes in movie trailers. As I'm walking about, I find myself in the horror thriller section. Hopefully I can find some action around here. As I turn the corner to the next row of shelves, I spot a dark-haired girl turned away from me, seemingly sorting through the books. It's Yuri. She takes one down and returns it after glancing at it for a few moments. As she's putting them back, she's arranging them in a different order as well. Maybe she works here, in which case, she might help me find a book if I ask nicely. Hello? Excuse me, miss? The lack of response surprises me. Perhaps she's listening to music and I was too quiet? I edge closer and reach out my hand to touch her shoulder in case she still can't hear me. Hello, sorry. Just as I'm about to tap her shoulder, she suddenly turns around and bumps into my extended arm. Ah! 3 thick thesaurus-looking books bounce briskly on the floor as Yuri drops everything. Definitely not the reaction I expected from a girl noticing me. I'm sorry, I thought you... No, it's my fault. I should have... Don't blame yourself. I'm... sorry. Saying that nearly at the same time causes both of us to blush. I wasn't expecting to see you here, Yuri. You didn't? I should have? She did say she likes visiting this bookstore. It's not like this is her hangout spot. Not that you should have. So, what brings you here, Caesar? I'm looking for a book. Yuri pauses for a moment, probably expecting me to give a title or description. However, I don't know is neither of those. May I ask which book you're looking for? I don't know. Maybe I should at least try to not sound clueless. Oh, Do you have a description of the story? Perhaps the genre? If you know some of its major events, that can also help finding it. Something with a lot of action, like sword fights, car chases, space battles, you know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not looking for a specific book with all those elements, are you? No. After the third shake of my head, I actually think about what she asked. All of those things together sound like a pretty cool book, especially with a protagonist that isn't afraid of anything. I was about to ask you where I can find a book like that, but only because I thought you worked here. I wouldn't want to keep you busy. No, you can ask me. Should I really ask her after telling her what I wanted to say? I mean, I can help you, if you would so desire. Yeah, that'd be great. Let me just pick up these books for you first. Don't worry, I lean down to grab one of the books. Yuri's hand touches mine momentarily when she reaches for the same book. She immediately recoils. The classic hand-touching, oh, I'm sorry moment. I grab the other two and hand over the surprisingly heavy stack. She takes it from me with an elegant motion, but without making eye contact. Shall we go then? Sure. It almost feels like interrogation, or maybe just an interview, with all the questions she's giving me about what I'm looking for. She goes silent, descends deep into her thoughts, then suddenly walks away. After Yuri scans the array of books on the shelves, she picks one, and another one. She comes back, and then walks past me. She takes a third book, and finally comes back with her eyes locked on the 3 books and stops right in front of me. Let's try these on for size. Let's try these on for size. That's a very suggestive sentence. I know it's a mod, but just like, the thought of Yuri saying something like, let's try these on for size, just like, wow. One by one, she gives me a detailed explanation of what the books are about, the writer's style, the personalities of the characters, and all that jazz. You know so much about these. How many times did you read them? I only read one of them in its entirety. From the other 2, I read a chapter or so to get a general feel for them. But how do you know so much about these books then? You can get a good sense of many aspects from a story from the first few chapters if it's written well. You see, there's much more unpredictability in something written badly than with a well-crafted but formulaic piece of art. Since you mentioned it, take a fighting scene for example. The protagonist may know what kinds of moves to expect from a master martial artist, if he knows that specific style. However, this doesn't give him the ability to evade the skillful blows of a master. Contrary to this, with an untrained practitioner of art, there is a great degree of unpredictability. That doesn't mean you should hold your breath for something exceptional, but there is a chance for a perfectly executed move, even if it's just a slim chance. That's kind of how I try to predict where a story will go if I see that it's written well. What if there's a twist? How do you predict that? You don't. That's the point of a twist, Caesar. I am outclassed. Yuri looks at me and seems to read something off the wall. The store is closing in 10 minutes. Yeah, we should go somewhere else. Ooh, where do you want to go? I spoke without thinking again. I don't know where to take her. Tuck it in the back of my mind for now and just start walking. What was that pause supposed to mean? Tuck it? There's probably somewhere nice we can go around here. I hope. We leave the bookstore and start walking down the street. My eyes dart from side to side as I try to find a suitable spot to stay. Laundromat, deli, gym, dark alley. Yuri wordlessly walks next to me and I'm getting ready for her inevitable question. Where are we going? Caesar. I look over at Yuri and see a worried expression on her face. I think it's starting to rain. Within a minute, it wasn't just raining, it was storming. Water is falling like it's being poured from 1,000 buckets at the same time. Even though we barely know each other, I can see we had the same thought racing through our heads. We have to find a roof over our head, now! I spot a small diner-like store and motion Yuri to enter while I hold the door open for her. We are looking out the window to watch all the havoc we avoided by coming in here. I can only hope it won't last for too long. Not that I can complain with the company I get to keep, but I'm not sure if it's reciprocated yet. We might as well check out what they have on the menu, seeing that the storm shows no sign of stopping anytime soon. After saying hello to the only employee we see, I check the blackboard that has a limited menu on it with white and colored chalk. Oh, my favorite tea is on the menu. Which one is it? Oolong tea. We could get a jug for the price of 2 cups. That's sure to set the mood. If that's okay with you, of course. Sounds good to me. We settle at one of the tables and I pour tea for both of us. It tastes strange at first. It could be because I don't drink tea often, or it's just an unusual kind anyway. Yuri looks out the window and traces the rim of her teacup with her finger. I like storms. What do you like about them? It's the sound of thunder and millions of raindrops crashing on the ground, eventually forming into puddles and tiny streams on the man-made concrete surfaces. It reminds me of how we are inevitably part of something greater than us, nature, whether we like it or not. This is a bit of a different artistic design for Yuri here. So, what's on your mind, Caesar? Alright, so we get to choose 2 of these 3. We live in a society. What do you do in your free time? Do you like traveling? Let's start with, what do you do in your free time? So, we didn't really have enough time yesterday to talk about it. What do you like to do when you're not reading? Writing. She really seems to be focused on literature in general. I mean, do you do other things in your free time not related to literature? For example, I like to play a lot of video games, but I also watch movies now and then. In my free time? She looks out the window with her eyes taking in the sight of the rain as it fades our view of the city into a light gray blur. I'm guessing she's collecting her thoughts before answering my question. She's been silent for a minute now. She takes a sip from her tea, but still doesn't say anything. It's hard to put into words. Yes. Well, it's a bit complicated. I'm an enthusiast of aromatherapy, but in most cases it serves as a way to set my mood for my reading and writing sessions. It helps me a great deal to get immersed in the stories and feel a closer connection to the characters in each story. The way some of them are written greatly inspires me and gives me new perspectives on my life. It's almost as if they were my... She doesn't finish her sentence and looks at me with a worried expression. There I go again, going back to literature. Sorry for going off topic. Don't worry, Yuri. Anyways, do you have other interests? You know, places you like to visit, things you like to collect. Well, I wouldn't say I personally collect things per se. Places? Let's see. When given the opportunity, I like to visit places with my mom. We went to see a movie last Saturday, for example. That's great. I sometimes go out with my parents as well, although it's usually up to them where we go. So, you like to watch movies? I rarely do. But I am open to the idea. That's a good start. Maybe we can go watch one together. That really sounds like a date, though, so she'd probably reject me. The tea is taking its effect on me. I'll be back in a few minutes. Huh? Just going to the toilet. Oh, okay, sorry. After asking an employee for directions, she motions me towards a door in the back. I'm glad the prices are cheap, but it shows on the quality of their men's room as well. The whole thing is about as big as Mom's closet. While doing my business and trying to be quiet, I'm assessing the situation I got myself into. What even is this? Is this what people call romantic? Aren't I supposed to feel something special? Well, not while you're taking a piss. I'm just feeling weird about being alone with a pretty girl like Yuri. It's a good thing she can't read my mind, or anyone for that matter. After washing my hands, I go back to the girl with the nicely fitting sweater. She's looking out the window at the streets covered in rainwater. I sit in front of her, she gives me a modest smile, and I pour myself the rest of the tea. Alright, 2 more choices. Let's go with, Yuri likes deep philosophical talk, so we live in a society. Let's go with that. I want to say something deep and insightful that she can relate to. Read my mind. I dig deep in my mind in search of a topic. I find a kernel of a thought and latch onto it in hopes of finding a coherent train of thought. We live in a society. We live in a society. I let out a sigh. The train of thought got cancelled, and I'm left at the station of pseudo-intellectualism. I don't even know what that word means. I just heard it somewhere and thought it sounded smart. Yuri looks at me, expecting some more words to come out of my dumb mouth. Then she looks away and seems to be deep in thought. That's the most embarrassing moment that MC has had in this game so far. I'm looking at her as she's fiddling with her hair. She's probably wishing the rain would go away so she could finally go home and not listen to my meaningless comments. Yeah, even I would be embarrassed at that point if I started to say something, we live in a society. As she's occasionally sipping her tea, a good minute or 2 passes. My gaze goes from the window back to her a few times before my anxious silence pushes me to say something. What are you thinking about, Yuri? I'm sorry, I got lost in my thoughts. What you said reminded me of the societies in the books I read, some of them being radically different. How so? Stories based on medieval history show how important nobility and royalty was back then. Although they were kept in high regard, they too had their own obligations to fill. For example, what we think of as a princess today is very different from what the fate entailed to those girls. They were trained and educated to become ideal partners to their future husbands who they often couldn't choose. Did you ever dream of becoming one? A princess? Well, I wouldn't say I dreamt about it, but a few people in my family called me that. Let's talk about you instead. Did I ever want to become a princess? Not yet, but who knows what fate has in store for me. Haha. Indeed, we can't foresee what fate will give to us or take from us, unfortunately. She looks away, and her amused smile starts to waver as she finishes that sentence. Okay guys, so we're approaching the 30-minute mark here, so I think I'm gonna have to stop it there, on that little cliffhanger there. But it looks like we're starting to form a bond with Yuri. You know, we were walking with Monika and talking with her, but Monika wasn't around today, so now we're hitting things off pretty well with Yuri. So I guess we'll see where this takes us. Who are we gonna get in the end, guys? Yuri or Monika? I guess we'll find out in the next episode, maybe. Thank you for watching as always, guys, and until next time, I'm Caesar Madrazo, and I am out.